it's sufficient and if we are allowed enough property for the permit. Well, I have to have it approved before I can send it in to the civil engineer to get permits.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
144,000 was the first one, and the second
Oh.
one is 27, a little over 27,000.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I missed the first one.
Judy, did you have some?
Yes,
Judy, did you have something?
yes. I hope everyone realizes it's going to change the looks of that south gate a lot. It's not going to be symmetrical, it's going to be a little off balance, and we're going to be not getting contractors in any faster than we are now.
I think
You
that,
might be getting the residents in faster.
RFIDs that are going to get in faster.
I think it was rather well put by Randy after we had toured that area up there when he said, we're trading looks for utility. And I suppose that has a lot of merit, but we still are Spruce Creek. And I think we need to at least consider that. Yes, Candy? Would you come up here, please, Candy, so we can hear you?
I'm kind of with you on this. The one lane that comes if you're coming from, I guess it'd be the south, that's a 2-lane road, out and in, the one that loops. The one coming along the brick wall is not a 2-lane road. And I don't think you can just willy-nilly go out there and paint a line down the middle and call one the RFID and one not. So I'm kind of with you on this.
Well, that's not what he was saying.
Well, I think the fact is, and I think Melvin is the one who said it initially, and that is that I believe that there is going to be some advantage to the residents here. I believe that that will happen. But there are going to be a number of folks that are going to get caught out in public street and in the public road that have not gotten to the gate yet, that still are not going to have that access. Now let's just say, for the sake of argument, it's going to speed stuff up. Okay, well, I think there's merit to it. If 6 months out of the year we can help folks transition into Spruce Creek from the south gate, if we can do that for $26,000 or $30,000, I suppose it makes sense at the penalty of affecting the look of the back gate. And if that's what folks want, is that utility, and it's that important 6 months out of the year, then perhaps we ought to consider that. But I don't think we ought to consider moving forward until we understand more fully what the county is going to be saying about that manhole and about the power lines.
But we have to open up the manhole before we can decide what it is. Every drawing that I have pulled out of this community, of this office, says it's an unknown manhole. We need to know if it is strong enough, if it needs to be reinforced, if it has to be raised, why it's even there. And no one that I've talked to can answer that question.
Diane, why don't you send Jeff down that manhole, see what's there?
Oh, I threatened to put him in there.
Well,
And Dennis might go along with him.
it seems like we've got a board that's pretty well in favor of this thing. I won't stand in the way of it. I would feel more comfortable with what we're doing if we knew a little bit more about that utility.
I still like the other one. We put a cap on it.
Stand by. You guys done?
Wait.
Julie?
We've looked at this also from the point of view of safety and security, but Diane, the parallel lane that comes in along the wall, as Candy just pointed out, right now is 1 lane. Are you proposing to make it 2? So that,
Absolutely not.
so that when you're staging, okay, so then if you're not, and you have just come in on that one lane road and there's 10 cars in front of you that are all contractors, what are you gonna do? Go around this lane on the shoulder? I don't understand how it alleviates the traffic problem if most of those cars that are backed up are commercial.
It's simple. You go down to the next turn and come in from there.
So you have to anticipate that there's a line of cars there and you go to the flashing light and turn right?
Correct.
And what if there's 3 or 4 commercial cars that have already come in from Airport Road from that direction because they're coming from south to north and they're blocking up that entrance? How do you get by them?
We will do exactly what we've done in the past there. You go in as the traffic moves. That's not where it's getting bound up. It's bound up for that one lane when a contractor with a trailer is sitting turned into and the residents can't get past them or get down and cut behind them to get into the RFID lane. If there was
But how do they get around, if they're sticking out the back, how do they get around them? If it's a 1-lane road? Or if they're sticking out, okay, let's take the example of from the flashing light. You only have 2 lanes, one ingress and one egress, right? You're not adding a lane are you adding a lane all the way back to Airport Road?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so if there are contractors sticking out that stem of the road, how do you get around them without going into the...
This was vetted out through Public Works. We don't need to vet it out again here, Julie. But the reality here is that I think you're making a good point, the same point that Melvin made, and it's kind of the point that I'm making. I know there's going to be a benefit, but how much of a benefit is there? That's what I'm talking to this board about.
And there's, my point of this thing is if we move down this thing and we still have an issue, we can bring the contractors in on the parallel road and bring the residents in on the flashing lane. Then there's your entrance.
I believe that's public road.
That still doesn't mean we can't, the contractors work for Spruce Creek and the residents of Spruce Creek. You understand what I'm saying? You have some control, believe it or not. I mean, I really don't have a lot of control, but the answer is if we made that one of those, either one, a contractor entrance, we would solve the problem that you're talking about.
This will be the last one, John.
At the risk of really sounding ignorant, I've been here 7 years, and I can't figure out why a half-ton pickup can't go in the north gate. The person that does my pool drives it, well, just 1 second. I've seen residents with larger vehicles come through the north gate than the man who does my pool. So why not say, pick a number, 2 tons or less can come through the north gate. Effectively, you're opening another runway.
Part of the reason why this is, thanks John. Part of the reason why this is being considered is that North Gate is coming under more and more pressure from encroaching developments. It's only going to get worse. What we do to the South Gate will help alleviate some of this pressure. This is part of why this is here. This topic is here, is trying to do what we can with the South Gate without completely destroying the overall look of it. And trying to work with the constraints of the one-way road we have parallel to the fence, and then the 2-lane road coming in from Airport Road. So, you guys seem to be for this thing. We don't have a motion yet.
I make a motion that the board approve $50,000 for this project to proceed.
I second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah.
The $50,000 thing include any shrubbery or landscape design?
No. That $50,000 is just for the completion of the project.
So there won't be an application later on for beautification of the south gate, or that would be something totally different?
That would be something totally different.
Dennis, you had something?
Diane, out of little ignorance, let's assume we approve $30,000 right now. What does it cost to get the permit? What is our exposure? Is it any financial load? Meaning, if it's $500 to get a permit from the county, we could say, let's approve $30,000, get the permit, then find out what this underground structure is going to cost us and how much difficulty it has, because we know what underground does with Spruce Creek.
We can open up this manhole at any time.
Why don't we?
Why haven't we done that? Paul raises a good point. We're approving something that we may not be able to do. Why don't we find out first and then come back and vote on this next month?
And if we approve the 50,000 now, and we dig it up, and we find that it's not possible, then we haven't spent anything other than the labor to open up the manhole.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and we have a second. No further discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Betsy, you got that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Taxi dog.
It failed, Jack. This is not going to be the end of this. I would have rather tabled this first, but sometimes that's the way it goes.
Just an idea. In a week or so, why can't we have a little gathering about this and gather some ideas from people? Because I understand what you're trying to do, but the bigger problem is the contractors. So if the outbound lane could be 2 lanes in the morning until 2 o'clock with a row of cones, I don't know if it can, because I haven't measured anything. Then you could have 1 outbound lane, 2 inbound lanes. You could have 2 people in that guard shack, not guard shack, but your check credentials. Speed up the contractors process a bunch, because if they're sitting out there for an hour, guess who's eventually going to pay for that? Whoever that truck's coming to.
What I would like to do is not discuss that at a board meeting. What I would like to do is have that go to a public works meeting or safety and security.
Well, I'm just saying a meeting of the minds kind of thing.
Very good. I will ask you, Jack, then to pursue that, as I said, through public works or through safety and security. I think a lot of those ideas have already been vetted out at one point or another, because this topic seems to come up every single year.
How wide is that outbound gate in total?
I don't know.
The 2 lanes, including the 2 lanes?
How wide is it?
How wide were?
Don't call it lanes, just give me a number.
20 feet. Outbound 20 feet. 2 lanes.
Ellen, did you have a comment to make?
Yes. I just wondered, any thought, and maybe I'm ignorant, any thought has been given to, like, known travelers, perhaps to give the known contractors that are in Mattersburg all the time, let them purchase RFIDs. So
Yeah, we've encouraged that, trying to get them to do that. Yeah, that came out of safety and security. Yeah. Okay, we're going to move on. We have under new business, we have a vote on the resolution for a PUD change to cap dwelling units in Spruce Creek at 1,600. Randy has already given us the ballot totals. This was done in compliance with what the county expectation was and what our land use real estate attorney had negotiated with the county. This is a measure that we've been working on for months. It is now at a point where we need to vote on it. It has been an overwhelming response by this association, and in fact, this association has voted to a greater degree than it has on anything else other in the history of Spruce Creek. It is that compelling a topic. Without further ado, I will make the motion that we adopt the resolution and ratify the vote. Got a second? Any discussion?
Well, I just have one question on the 1500. The actual lots now allotted are 1598. Just so the audience and the folks understand what's the reason for the 1500.
We are currently at 1598. Approximately 37 of those 1598 are empty lots that have not been built on yet. They are unaffected by this. The cap is a move downward from 1,884 dwelling units, which are inclusive of residential and commercial properties, to 1,600. We're at 1,598 right now. We have one that is working its way through annexation into our association. That will be, if approved by this board, that will end up going to a vote of the association to determine whether or not the association wants to accept that lot into our master association. And if that's the case, that'll be 1,599. 1,600 is the figure that we came up with because we have a problem with another lot that is currently being counted as part of the 1598, but has not properly been annexed into the association. I don't suspect that it'll come up. I don't encourage that it comes up, but at least it gives us some leeway there in the event that we might need it.
Should the extra lot fall other than that, and I accept that explanation, stir an inducement by the country club to say, well, there's one available and we have a lot for sale, and did we get ourselves in a pickle by approving the 1,600 versus 1,599?
It certainly could if any landowner in Spruce Creek is interested in developing a lot, a portion of his land, whether that be the golf course or whether that be the POA. We do have that option with that one lot left. It still has to go through the same process and the same procedure that we are requiring the lot that is currently working its way through, that the same standard applies. No? Are you done, Jack?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay, very good. Melvin?
My voice is kind of broken, so I'll try to brief here. Is this number change, because whenever the meeting in the church, I talked to our manager afterward and I said, okay, what are the numbers? He said, well, there's 1,598 here, there won't be any more development. Okay. I said, well, how come the number wasn't in the ballot that was put out? My ballot didn't have any numbers on it, and I don't believe anybody else's did. So the question was, if we're 1,598, my understanding was the overwhelming position of the community was we freeze where we are. We're not adding things or making some exceptions. And I couldn't quite get clear, but this is part of a question to you, is are these lots that are considered in addition to the ones already approved, are they lots on the country club?
I think I'm unclear about your question, Melvin.
Okay, we got 1,598. Everybody knows where every one of those are, okay?
Right.
I hear the suggestion that we approve 1,600. What are the other two again, please?
There are no other two, with the exception of what this board has inherited with the Dallenbach lot. That is now considered by the county to be an unplatted lot. in Spruce Creek, a residential unplatted lot. What they're looking and seeking for right now is platted status, meaning that they belong to something in Spruce Creek.
And that number
Would
at
be-
this moment is 1,598?
That's 1599.
Okay, where's the other one? I'm missing one.
There is no other one. That is just, the cap just exists. When the cap is, right now the cap is at 1884.
No, I understand, I know.
There are no lots designated as 1598 to 1884. This just means that if you have land available for rezoning to residential or commercial status, you can go up to 1884, but not over.
No, I'm clear about that, but my question, I think, is much simpler than that. If they're currently 1,598, and anything beyond the 1,598 have to have a community approval, why are we suggesting 1,600 now?
Because we have one lot that currently is at part of the 1598, but it has never officially been annexed into the association.
Okay, does that mean, but is it paying dues? Has it been paying
Yes,
dues?
yes.
And so it is one of the 1,598.
Correct. Yes, yes it is.
Well,
Yes, it is.
that's half my point. If it's one of the 1,598, yes, if we've been taking dues from them for a long time, I would expect that to just be encompassed in a lot that is approved now and has been approved at least tacitly because we've been accepting their dues for a long time.
But if we end up taking that lot to the county and saying, we need this counted as part of our association, they don't recognize it as being part of 1598.
But there's where I'm struggling.
Yeah.
Where if we got 1,598, that's how much dues we're collecting, and one of that 1,598, then if one of that 1,598 is not approved by the county, then the number still needs to be 1,598, not 1,599, because you don't have to add it in again. It's already in our dues, it's just not with the county.
Correct. Well, yeah. Now, the issue about what the number should be, I like the idea of having at least one that we can use in case there is a mistake here. I believe there is a mistake. The county may not even know it, but the fact is that I believe it exists. And so, but the only thing we're using right now, and the only way to count this, is to use our assessments for the dwelling units that exist.
Are any of this 1,600 proposed numbers intended to be for lots that have been artificially pruned off of the golf course?
No. With the exception of the Dallenbach lot, which is, as I said, what we had inherited, that's number 1599.
Okay, well, that's been known since the beginning, since that one was, I'll call it, they tried to slide it under the door. I thought the block had been in place, and this was, this entire process was just to make that block effective, and say we're frozen at the 1,598, if that's a number, okay, 1,597, and 1,598 if we're including one that's been paying dues for a long time. But is the intent to push through one or more of these proposed golf court divestitures?
That is not being looked at. It has not been presented. I don't expect it to.
Okay.
And I like the idea of having at least one dwelling unit available in the event that, for instance, if Crosswinds Hangars decides they want to add that last hangar, this would give them the ability to do so. They still have to go through the same process, but it gives them the ability to do so.
Okay, I'll comment that back when I was engaged in this actively, that there was expenditure of some time where, and I don't, this isn't any secret, I mean, I expressed my view on this, where our company attorney was assisting them in trying to get this lot pushed through, which I took exception to. And I still would say that that is rather not a good thing if it turns out where there's ever a contest over any of that, and we've had our own attorney working on both sides. We're going to at best look foolish or duplicitous, and that's why I'm having trouble with the count here.
Well, that's going to come up at the next, and that's up for discussion on our next bullet point here. So,
Okay, I'll sit out there.
Okay.
Let's listen.
very good. All right, so we have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion about this? All in favor?
All right, just one last comment from Jack for the record. I feel the number should be $15.99 to foreclose my concern that I raised earlier that we do not intentionally make an exception for someone to come in, get the country club or someone else, and move rapidly since we've approved an extra lot, and then it seems to defeat the very purpose of the PUD motion. So I would be in favor of $15.99, anticipating the vote on the next issue.
Let me make something very clear. At 1884 dwelling units, the county would see a request for a rezoning and re-permitting of a lot in Spruce Creek as a rubber stamp. Lowering this to some lesser number means then that if you intend to do any development in Spruce Creek, it is now considered, and it exceeds that 1,600, you now end up going into a major change to the PUD. That involves much more than simply just petitioning the county for a minor change to the PUD. Now, that being said, the process and the procedure is the same, but a major change to the PUD involves a great deal more in the way of county involvement. They end up having to do another review of the impact that that development has, not only within the PUD that the change is requested in, but also in the surrounding area. So it's a much more developer-designated effort here. So,
Understood, Paul.
yeah, so what, I think the discussion is somewhat academic here. We're talking about one lot, maybe two. If the Dallenbach lot doesn't get the support from the association, then we might be talking about two lots that are available. And those lots could be developed without having a developmental impact review.
Exactly.
But it still has to go through the process that we are doing right now per our declarations. That does end up going directly to the association for a vote. So from that perspective, we've made it very clear about what the process is. As I mentioned, we've inherited this thing with the Dallenbach lot, which is going to come up next. And we're kind of going at this backwards. But we've had to. We've had to do it that way. It normally wouldn't go this way. But the cap is listed right now at 1,600. I see no compelling reason to change that at this particular point.
Paul, I'd like to call the question before we beat this to death.
No, let's call for it.
I call the question. It's our meeting. Let's call the question.
We have been, let me make this clear. This board has always engaged everyone who has walked through that back door.
That's not the problem. We're going to go on and on for this, and I see no problem because I know what the votes are. So we have 900 people that already voted in favor of this. Why are we beating it to death?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's move on. We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Jack, did you vote for this?
I did.
Betsy, you got that? He's abstaining? You can count whoever it was in the back that voted yes. Okay, we're moving on to a vote on the supplementary declaration reference parcel 6225000016, commonly referred to as the Dallenbach lot. We spent a great deal of time and not an inconsiderate amount of money to convince all of the players in this of the proper procedure involved in a request and a petition to annex or to rezone and annex a lot into our association. We have, in essence, referred to our declarations and written the book through Brooks Casey's office on how this is supposed to be done. Mr. Dallenbach has agreed to do everything that is required and has done so, and is submitting this resolution for approval by this board. Let me make this clear. This board is not approving the Dallenbach lot to be annexed into the association. This board is simply stating by vote, by majority vote, whether or not we let this go to the association for a vote. That's what this is about. I make the motion that we accept the resolution as it is written, with one exception. There is a date in that of June 2nd, 2018. That date, and this was caught by Jack Murray, this is a date that actually should reflect January 7th, 2019. Is that correct, Jack?
Yeah, the date should reflect the day's action on the, that's on the PUD resolution, Paul, correct?
Correct.
No.
I'm sorry, not the PUD. No, this is on the Dallenbach lot.
Yeah, no, Paul, the correction that I corrected was on the proposed resolution for the PUD. I have the wrong date.
I'm a little confused.
Supplemental declaration is not the resolution that I found mistaken.
June 2nd, 2018.
It's on the sign page?
Yes.
It's on the sign page.
Bear with us here, folks, 1 minute.
Well, there's two resolutions.
You're right, Jack, that's correct. I was under the impression it was under the other one. Okay, very good. So the supplementary declaration, Fly-In Spruce Creek Incorporated Subdivision Unit 1, that's what we are referring to. This is for the Dallenbach lot. My apologies, I got confused about that.